How's it going, metalheads? Welcome back to another video. This is going to be a different kind of video for my channel. If you guys know that going around the middle of YouTube, sometimes there's tags where a certain creator will ask a bunch of questions and then pose other creators to answer those questions. So that's what we're going to be doing today. This one's similar to the metal tag, which I will be putting out a video on at some point, I hope. It's just going to take a lot of editing since I don't have a lot of CDs in my collection. But anyway, today we're going to be responding to Quest for Metal's Metal Handover for 2026. It's also 20 questions, just like the metal tag, but it's a little bit more, just question-based and not album-based, like the metal tag is. So I figured it was a little bit easier of a video to answer. So yeah, let's just get started. Number one is, what band shaped your taste more than any other band? For me, that's Creator. Obviously I was getting into Metallica and everything as a young metalhead. But when I heard Creator, specifically Pleasure to Kill, that really opened my eyes to, more aggressive thrash metal, also death metal and other things like that. And they were just really big in helping me get where I am today in terms of, liking all the music that I like. Obviously, I, evolved from just thrash. I'm wearing a Mortiferum shirt. Malignant Altars behind me. There's Creeping Death and Fit for an Autopsy over there. So yeah, they were a big part of me getting into more heavy stuff like death metal and other genres like that. So yeah, definitely Creator shaped my taste more than any other band early on. Second question, or statement or prompt is, a band that sounds better live than in the studio. For me, that's Frozen Soul. I do really like Frozen Soul's albums. I think they're awesome, but I've seen them twice now, and they're just way better live. They're just super crushing. Their sets are always great. So anytime they come to town, I always try and go and see them because they're awesome live. Don't get me wrong, their albums are fantastic death metal. There's not a whole lot of great, old school death metal that comes out nowadays, and I think they're one of the good ones. But they're definitely better live than in the studio for sure. Number three, an album that rewards repeated listens. For me, I kind of took that as, one that you kind of liked going into it, but if you listen to it more, you can kind of hear the intricacies of it and stuff. Like as a movie guy, my favorite movie is Ocean's 11. I've seen that movie, a bajillion times, and I still find intricacies I didn't, really get the first time I watched it. And so for me, the album is Realms of Exquisite Morbidity by Malignant Altar. Yeah, I was immediately hooked on that album from the bells in the first track. But once I listened to it a bunch, and when I keep listening to it, I still hear the intricacies and the weird time signatures and stuff of the music. So it really just draws me back, and you find something new every time you listen to it, I think. And it's a really cool album. It's a really interesting listen. So I definitely dig it. Number four, if I could recommend one album to a non-metal fan, I had to think about this one for a second. I was trying to think about what's heavy, but also, accessible still to, somebody who hasn't heard harsher vocals maybe, or, heavier guitars. And so I was thinking earlier Judas Priest, just because that stuff isn't as heavy as, Painkiller and the latter. And I settled on Screaming for Vengeance because while it's still heavy, the vocals are, definitely more accessible than maybe death metal, but they're not, straight pop or like clean vocals. Rob Halford definitely has some rasp going on. And the guitars and the drums and stuff aren't as, fast and inaccessible as other genres, or maybe, later in their career Judas Priest got, especially with Painkiller and stuff. So yeah, definitely Screaming for Vengeance. That's also my favorite Priest album of all time. I love that album, and I would definitely recommend it to a non-metal fan who's trying to get into it, just because, it's not totally inaccessible, but it still has some of the stuff that you're going to find later on in metal if you're trying to get into it. Name an album, metal album specifically, that helped you through a tough time or difficult time. I couldn't really pick one for this. I got into metal in middle school, and yeah, so I just picked metal as a whole because middle school was really difficult for me. That was when the pandemic hit. And so I had a rough time in middle school, and I kind of found my place in metal. It sounds cheesy when you say that, when you hear it out loud, but, it's really true. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I still don't know what I want to do, as like a job, but, I didn't know what I wanted to do, didn't know what I wanted to be going into high school, and metal really helped me with that. So I just picked metal as a whole because it really got me through that difficult time, and it helped me find my identity. Number six, a band you'll always defend, 6 Feet Under for me. I know a lot of people hate them. A lot of people hate, the later Chris Barnes stuff, but 6 Feet Under was a big part of me getting into death metal, just because I checked out Cannibal Corpse, and I heard their former vocalist had another project, so I checked that out, and I really dig it. I don't know, I kind of understand why people don't like it, but for me, I really dig it, and I'll always defend them. So yeah, 6 Feet Under for sure. An album where the deep cuts are better than the hits is number 7. And for me, that's The Last Command by Wasp. That's their second album, I believe, came out in 1985. I absolutely love that album. Every song on it's a banger, but I think Wild Child is definitely the hit on there, and all the other songs like Jack Action, The Last Command, the title track, all of it is just really, really good, and I think better than Wild Child. So yeah, definitely The Last Command by Wasp, and I think they're an underrated band as a whole. Number 8 is a band I'd wish stopped making music. I wish would stop making music. Definitely Motley Crue for me. I know that a lot of people probably say that. I watched Thrills and Metals video on this, and they said Motley Crue for one of them. Yeah, I think they just need to hang it up because they can't even really tour anymore with, how bad Vince Neil's gotten. So yeah, I feel like we can just remember them as a legacy band for the first, 3 or 4 albums. But other than that, I don't really see any value there. Other than, trying to make money. But if people hate it, then they're not going to buy it. So, yeah. Motley Crue should hang it up. Number 9, an album where the production holds back the songs. I talked about them a little bit. My friend's band, Cripsal Golgotha, their first EP was called In Death's Hands. And the songs were really good on it. But the production was interesting. I didn't really dig it, especially the pinging snare drum. I've gotten to a little bit more used to that now. But that was really prevalent on that, and I really didn't like the mixing on that album. They re-recorded one of the songs, actually my favorite song off of that, for a split they did recently, and it sounded so much better. So yeah, I know it's not an album, but that's just the only one I really thought of for that one. Number 10 is an album that defines a genre perfectly. For this one, I went with Irreversible Disintegration by Abnormity. I really think it defines slam and brutal death metal perfectly, from the crushing drums and the riffs to the almost unintelligible vocals, the gurgles at some points, and then the samples and the pinch harmonics too. I think that really just defines brutal death metal and slam really well. Definitely go check that out. I think it's one of the more underrated albums in slam and brutal death. Again, that's Irreversible Disintegration by Abnormity. They are from Russia. Number 11 is an album I respect more than I enjoy. I had to think about this one also for a little bit, but I went with Peace Sells by Megadeth. As a Metallica diehard, I never really got into Megadeth the way other people did. And don't get me wrong, they have some good songs like Peace Sells, like the title track. But the whole album, I know people think that, a lot of Megadeth fans will say, it's the best one and the one they got into Megadeth with and all this stuff about it. And I just really, the whole album as a whole, I never really got it. So yeah, definitely that one. Although there's a lot of stuff by Megadeth that I could say, like, I like certain songs, but the whole album is, like, kind of mid for me. So, yeah, anyway. Name a band where the side project rivals the main. For me, I went with Massacre and a bunch of the ex-members. I think there's only a couple now in the band, but Inhuman Condition, which is actually the name of a Massacre EP. I believe it's from 1991. But anyway, I love Inhuman Condition. They're a great band, and definitely, rivals Massacre for me, although some people might think otherwise. Number 13 is the best metal band you've discovered by accident. All of them. I can't really say by accident because I've discovered bands many different ways, through friends, through YouTube, through Apple Music, like the Similar Artist thing, just looking, for new metal bands to listen to, random bands on Metal Archives, just all the ways. So I'm going to say most of the bands I love I've discovered through a different way, I couldn't really pick one for that one. Number 14 is if you could erase one album from a band's discography, which one would it be? For me, I said Reinventing the Steel and Pantera. I never really got into that album as much as I did with the other ones. Love all the other ones. They're all awesome, except for Reinventing the Steel. It just never really did it for me. And so if I could erase it, I think I would love Pantera a whole lot more. Although I do really love them. They are one of my favorite bands and one of the bands I got into metal with, especially heavier stuff. Them and Creator were kind of the two, went hand in hand, and getting me into the, heavier stuff. Number 15 is a band you loved early on and now can't stand. I went with Disturbed. I wouldn't say I loved them. I listened to, a little bit, and I definitely thought David Draymond was pretty cool when I was first getting into metal. And now I don't really like them, and I think David Draymond's really full of himself, and Disturbed kind of has, like, a couple good songs, but the rest of them are pretty bad. And he's also kind of a dickhead. So, yeah, definitely can't stand Disturbed now. Won't be listening to any new stuff of theirs. Down with the Sickness, maybe, but it's not something I jam frequently. Number 16 is a band I hated early on and now love. I wouldn't say I hated them, I just didn't really dig them, but now I love them. They're Slayer. Yeah, Slayer. I remember listening to Angel of Death early on when I was getting into metal, not really digging it. But now, obviously, I love, all of Slayer's stuff pretty much. The later stuff is obviously, a little bit lackluster in terms of comparing it to the older stuff, but, let's see. A popular metal band I can't get into, number 17. I went with Sleep Token and Spirit Box for this one. But mostly anything that's overproduced or, in the mainstream right now. I feel like if a metal band, there's always this argument like, selling out and stuff. And I definitely feel like there's bands who have quote unquote sold out that have done it well. Like I really dig the Black Album. But the stuff nowadays that, a lot of people like, if you can cater to a certain amount of people, I feel like that, your sound is more accessible, and I don't really dig that. I definitely listen to a lot of inaccessible music. So stuff like that, Falling in Reverse, all that kind of stuff. I don't really dig that at all. Yeah. A metal band I love for reasons beyond the music, and I said nothing for this one. I said most of them, because I feel like in the music industry, you get a lot more attention for being a dickhead than you do for being a nice guy, and that's probably because most of the musicians you're going to meet are nice guys. Honestly, if I had to pick, I'd probably say all the guys I know in the local scene, guys and girls, actually. But yeah, they're just all super awesome people, and they definitely helped me get into metal more, and, making friends at shows and stuff in the local scene was really good. So if I had to pick, I'd probably say all the bands I know in the local scene here in Denver, because they're just all awesome people. 19 is my favorite album before I got into metal. Before I got into metal, which was like really early on in my life. Yeah, I got into metal around 7th grade. So before that I was in a lot of electronic stuff. And there's an artist called F777, and his album Viking Dance Machine was really cool. I liked how it mixed kind of the Viking sounds with the electronic stuff. But yeah, if you're into electronic, definitely go check him out because he's really cool. Then number 20 is kind of a dumb question. And Thralls also said this when they answered. And it kind of threw me off. The rest of the list is great, so good job to Quest of Metal, or Quest for Metal, sorry. But yeah, it's your favorite album of all time. Come on, like you're really gonna make me pick one? So I didn't. If you look at my T-shirt Slayer page, it says your favorite album of all time, or albums. So I listed my top 5, which I'm going to do here. These are not my only favorite albums. It definitely fluctuates day to day. But these are the ones that I keep going back to for sure. So Master of Puppets, obviously. I listen to Master of Puppets a whole lot. I wear it around my neck just because of how influential it was for me. Painkiller by Judas Priest, talked about it earlier. Definitely an influential album for me. Made me want to play electric guitar. And just really influential as a metalhead. Realms of Exquisite Morbidity, also talked about that one earlier. It definitely showed me how different death metal can be and stuff like that, and definitely got me into different stuff like Mortiferum and stuff like that. Epidemic of Violence by Demolition Hammer was one that I didn't really get into when I first heard it, but now I love it. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. I feel like it's one of the most ferocious albums of all time. Just the sound is really massive on it, and I really dig it. And then Reign Supreme by Dying Fetus is one of my favorite death metal albums of all time. Just the brutality of it is one of my favorites. But there's many others that I would say I absolutely love. So yeah, that one's definitely, a kind of an open-ended question. You can answer many different things for that one. But yeah, that was Quest for Metal's Metal Handover 2026. So yeah, if you guys want to answer these questions too, do a video or put it in the comments. Definitely go check out his channel too. I'll tag him. But anyway, hope you're all doing well. Have a nice day. See ya.